Kido, I'm here to bask in my glory. Go ahead, say the thing you were saying the other day. I'm ready to hear about how right I was. Please take it away.
Bro, I don't even remember, bro.
Well, let me
Honestly, don't
refresh
remember.
your memory,
Truly.
perhaps. So after the previous stream I did
Mm.
with Mr. Spiraling, by the way, how long were you in the audience waiting to come up? Because I did not realize at all until afterwards. My
Nah,
bad on that,
it
by
was
the
like
way.
maybe 5 minutes or so.
Okay, well that could be
Wasn't
better,
long.
but it could have been way worse. So I'm gonna say that's progress on my part. No one's perfect. All right. Well, anyways, after the
Yeah.
stream with Mr. Spiraling, after it already ended, we brought Kido up, and you know what Kido said to me? He said, Oodie, the hunkiest of the glorious of all men with the most correct takes of all time, you were so right on everything you've ever said, ever. So thank you, Kido, for acknowledging the fact that I am God. I appreciate that. Moving forward, maybe we could tone it down a little, stay a little
Wait,
bit
I didn't
humble,
hear a single thing you just said, bro.
but please,
Is
please
it was that
explain it
just
since
me?
I should think you refreshed your memory enough.
Bro, I have no idea, honestly.
You
I'll
want to
have
give
to
from your
rewatch
perspective.
the stream to figure out what you were saying that was somewhat correct in some sense. But for the most part, no, you weren't correct, you know. You
I'll
had
take
some
it.
good points. You had some good points you could have expounded on, but you didn't, you
I
know.
wanted to.
I
I
don't know
had more
why.
to say, but free game wanted to move on, so we had to like move to freaking Himawari or
Nah,
whatever. Who
nah.
freaking cares about Himawari?
What
You
are you
had
talking
time.
about? You
You
talked about
had
the
time,
stream the
bro.
other day
You
with
had
Mello,
time.
or
Yeah,
Yeah, the stream the other day.
okay. Yeah, I forgot like half
hey,
of what we talked about besides the Kawaki Boruto fight.
yeah, that looks
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's I think the main just the main drain as SpongeBob puts it. So getting into that, yeah,
I
all
don't even
right.
That's
So
remember
your
the
I thought
topic,
opinion.
bro. What's the topic?
Kawaki versus Boruto, it did everything it needed to do. It's objectively, from a screenwriter's perspective, arguably good in the fact that it does everything it needs to do, but it gives you the plot without giving you the story. It gives you the reason without giving you the care. So Kamui, I know you haven't, but for anyone out there, including maybe Kido, if you've seen Avatar The Last Airbender, and I have many examples, I'm just going to start with this one since I thought about it. You watched the episode The Library from season 2. This is a not penultimate, that's the wrong word. It is an ultimate episode, though. I can say that. That is a correct adjective. So it's an ultimate, it's an important episode where critical to the plot information, whatever, you find out, as well as the characters, obviously, that the eclipse is coming soon, and that when the eclipse happens in the far future, this isn't for another season, by the way, that's when the firebending stops, and that's the time to strike the Fire Nation to take out the Fire Lord. So they plan that for a season, then they go there. No one cares. No one even remembered it from that episode. They go to the Earth King. It's who cares? The care is with Appa, the B story, the quote unquote filler. You lose nothing from it not being there, but the Appa stuff is where you tear up. You don't care about the Fire Nation plot. Even if it's the main plot, you care about the subplot because those are where the characters are, the emotions. I don't care if it's filler. The point is you care. And stories, above all else, are supposed to make you care. If they do it by having correct plot structure and having an objectively good story, that's good. They can do everything they need to. But at the end of the day, it's when you boil a story down, technically there's only 7 different stories. You don't look at the structure of the story boiled down and be like, yeah, I care about that. You would say it's good. What you care about is the details or the moments. With Boruto versus Kawaki, it gave you what it needed to, but it didn't give you a reason to care.
Yeah, and so like with the whole comparisons that we made to the Naruto Sasuke Shippuden reunion or the Itachi versus Sasuke reunion, it's not to say that it's supposed to be an identical moment. It's not to say that it needs to be reliving Naruto's story. The point is there is a similarity in the concept in terms of what it does for the story. That's why we're making the comparison. But in the Naruto examples, you feel something from that scene. Whereas this one, I didn't feel anything. It's the same with Sarada's Mangekyo compared to Sasuke's Mangekyo or Obito's Mangekyo awakening scenes. it's a similar concept. It doesn't need to look exactly the same. It doesn't need it for the same reason. The point is, you should get a similar level of emotion out of it. You should feel something. I did for Obito and Sasuke. I didn't for Sarada. That's why I'm critiquing it. It's similar here.
I think I agree to some extent. The Boruto story is more so about like, who's stronger than, this character and all that stuff. There isn't much depth to it, especially when it comes to the Kawaki and Boruto stuff. So for me, when looking at the scene, I wasn't thinking about, maybe this should be like Naruto and Boruto, Naruto and Sasuke comparison,
Well, when I read the
because
scene, I wasn't thinking
I
that
never got that feeling
either.
from.
Yeah, it's only afterwards where you look back at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you guys mentioned the words being used, and
Well, it was a
It
clear.
looks kind of like the
think he-
Rasengan Uchiha
So
on
Mello
Code.
was
He
like,
just
it doesn't make
punches
sense
like he
to
puts
compare the
his
scenes.
hand in his chest, right?
I'll say it was a clear homage
Yeah.
to that scene, just straight up verbatim. Like it's
Yeah,
the same author, same
100%,
series.
yeah.
It's not like it's a different author, different series. It's clearly a reference to that scene in particular. Like they're doing things in
Yeah,
particular.
he's using the similar words like saying,
Yeah.
he's pathetic, he didn't train and stuff. It's very clear that it is. Again, like it's coming off a time skip, so there's another comparison. But the emotion itself isn't there,
Yeah, they took
I think-
the moment out
I
of
think
the
it's
moment.
mostly because of Kawaki, right? He isn't written like a person. He's like a robot, He's like an
The
android.
thing is, like,
Kamui's gonna agree with you there.
so I went back, because I'm
Yeah.
doing this Kawaki.
One
well, it
track
turned into a Kawaki video,
Kamui over
right?
here. Go ahead, Kamui. Tell us your Kawaki take,
I was
please.
gonna say. Well, no, like so. It just kind of turned into a Kawaki video, but I was going back and like looking at Kodachi's writing, and my God, it's a lot different in that regard, because a lot of those scenes in the Kawaki arc, you feel the emotion that's going on, even with Kawaki. In fact, especially with Kawaki, and it's just night and day different. But that being said, I don't think Kawaki is the problem, because realistically, everything with Kawaki makes sense thematically. So I don't think it's so much about that. And even then, like when Kawaki was beaten down, I feel like I could feel like the Kawaki desperation when he activates Karma, like he's relying on Atsuki powers rather than his power within like Kawaki Ninja, who's Kawaki Atsuki relies on. But I don't think Kawaki is really the problem. Him being a robot's really the problem. Part of it, I think, is the art. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's half the problem.
Yeah.
Bro, I hate his art now.
Yeah, I was literally
I feel-
comparing
I
it
feel-
to the manga art, and someone's like, why is he making the anime comparison? That has to be what he's referencing. I was like, bro, there's no way.
Speaking of that, let's pull up the Karama image. You know what I'm talking about.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, I got this pulled up on my screen. Shout out Karotos Mystery Shop. That's freaking Appa, okay? You care about that because you already, the audience member, have an attachment to Appa. Beyond that, the characters also have an attachment to Appa. So you, the audience, have a reason to care, and you can relate and sympathize to the main characters who you see on screen actively care. The Boruto aspect takes away both of that. First of all, the audience member just doesn't care about that Boruto versus Kawaki fight. Second of all, if the characters care, we just don't see it or know about it. It doesn't give you a reason to care, and we don't know even why we would care. It's the same, in my opinion, as reading spoilers on Twitter. It's hearing what happened without the substance to it, or the nuance, the actual content itself, the vibrance of the scene, arguably. It's similar to like a logical scene or an information dump. Like the Amado explanation of the Otsutsuki during the Kashin Koji versus Jigen fight, if we're going to compare it to that scene, is basically the same idea, to where it's giving you the information it needs to, but you're not supposed to care about that information. The information itself, the scene itself, you're supposed to care about the stakes and what it leads to in the future, but with this Boruto versus Kawaki fight, you leave it going, oh, okay, that happened, what's next? You're not looking at it, connecting it to the rest of the story, raveling all the details together, and being like, wow, That was an incredible moment. I'm glad that happened. Instead, it's just a thing that did happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky because I mean, part of this is kind of like in terms of like what would you do different. It's hard to say because I feel like you have to set up a little bit before differently.
Well, I want to
I don't think you
clarify.
can. There's not a
You
whole lot you can do with the one chapter alone. I mean, there's things you could do.
Yeah, so I heard
I
someone
don't
else
know
say
what
something
is
similar.
necessarily the
This is
best way to approach it.
even more of a reach. Someone I heard earlier was saying, "Bro, why are you critiquing Boruto? Just go write your own story if you have problems with Boruto." That's not a thing people
That
yeah,
word.
what do you mean? So I'm not allowed to critique a story. Rather, if I have critiques for a story, I should just go make my own story instead. No! Okay, so that's first of all, because that's the reach. The second one here is, well, if you have critiques for the story, rewrite it to where though you just don't anymore. You don't have to rewrite it. No, you don't have to say, well, this is wrong. Here's what you should have done right. You can point out what's wrong without having to do that step. Also, it's going to come across as general or vague if you're put on the spot to ask to do that when you don't have something in mind and when you don't care to make something in mind. And also, when it would just be general anyways, because you don't want to think about the details in a rewrite. In my opinion, you would want to do it vaguely on purpose.
I mean, regardless of that, I do think offering a solution is a good idea. It's something I like to do that. At
but
least
it's not
when I
necessary.
make critiques, I like to come up with a preferable solution. It's not a requirement. It's just something I think is good to do if you can do it.
Yeah.
In this case, I haven't thought of my solution. My particular chapter solution is just we're at the critique stage, not the solution stage.
Yeah.
Really, I'm fine with coming up with a solution. But
yeah, I mean, that's
not-
the
not
second
gotten
step, if anything, like to ask what the solution is before we even cover their critiques. I feel like that's a little bit backwards, but maybe that's just...
Yeah, no, you
Oh,
gotta
that's
start.
fair.
You start with the critique and then offer the solution. It doesn't make sense to offer the solution before you know why you're doing the solution.
Yeah. And
You need the problem first.
Even if you want to get to the
but actually,
details, you'd start with a
I thought you'd
general
find
or
this funny,
broad
Oodie.
solution. Like asking, well, what specifically should they say? Those are details. Like, I'm not going to give you word for word dialogue of they should have said this in this exact way at this exact moment. No, I have ideas, but it's rather you look at what wasn't
Yeah.
said and you can just sort of fill in the big puzzle pieces first before the small puzzle pieces. That's the best way to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, so like if you're presenting a complete rewrite, then yeah, I say like at least for me, like my Mitsuki rewrite, for example, I'm giving you like the verbatim scene by
Mitsuki
moment
rewrite?
by moment dialogue because that's what I'm doing. But in the early stages, no, I like I haven't done that yet. In this case, yeah, we're not there. Something I thought was funny. I got a comment.
Boruto does need a Diagonite though, so you should do it. You should do it.
Oh, I mean, I'm literally doing at least two of them. Well, it's really
Really?
two halves, but I'm rewriting the end of Boruto, like part
Yeah.
one. Like, I got like 90% done the Mitsuki focus part, and then I'm gonna do a Momoshiki focus part that just continues it really. But oh,
Okay.
absolutely, it's so much better in my opinion. But
I know those
regardless,
videos are like 2 hours, right?
no,
It's gonna be
I'm trying to
after
keep it
this,
from being
yeah.
too long.
I've been helping Kamui make it a little bit,
Yeah, the
so.
more when we get to the two blue vortex. But yeah, somebody commented on my video when I mentioned the rewrite. They're like, rewrites are for people whose headcanon didn't come true.
Bro.
No. I was like, no. I mean, could that be a
sometimes
thing?
that's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there could be a scenario where that is true.
Well,
Absolutely.
no, I disagree.
If
That's
your
not a
headcanon
rewrite. That's
was better-
fanfic. So no, I just straight up
I mean,
disagree
you're
with that take
technically
in general.
rewriting the story to create the fanfic, so it is a rewrite either way.
I mean,
You're
well,
changing
not
the story,
necessarily. If it's
so
in the same world, but
technically
it's
it
not the
is.
same story. It's not changing the story. It's creating your own story in the
So
same
he's
world. I feel like that's different.
That's always the case though, because you're not Kishimoto, so you can't actually change the world, you know. So
Yeah,
even
but I
if you're
mean,
doing like a rewrite, it's still gonna be like a fanfic in that case.
No, because in
yeah,
that
I
case,
mean, yeah, I get what you're
it's
both saying.
taking the story as it is and morphing it, so it's still the same story. It's just going about it a different way, similar to like the anime rewrites the manga. because they have different technical
Yeah, well,
things that happen.
No, that's different though, because guess what? The anime is official. If you're doing it, it's not. So
Well, it's not about being
there's a
official.
big difference there. There's like in a sense it is, because you're saying there's a difference between like rewriting the story and doing fanfic, right?
Yeah.
Because fanfic is when you create something outside of the story, and rewriting is when you're changing the story within the universe. But when the fanfic is literally doing that, right? You can't, even if you're doing like a fanfic, or you're quote unquote rewriting the story, you're not changing the true material itself, because you're not Kishimoto. You're not getting the official rights to do it. So technically you are creating fanfic either way, you know?
I think it's
Yeah, I
more
don't
like
know the
Outside
technical
of
definition.
the true
I don't know the technical definition.
you can't
of
tweet the
fanfic.
story because you're not Kishimoto.
The
So
point, though,
either
is
way,
be
any
official.
rewriting you're doing, it's creating something outside.
Well,
No,
but
what I'm
I don't know why
saying,
you're focusing on that one thing, but
The
you
point I'm
already
saying is
you
that-
know the
is
difference
that
though.
fanfic is usually, the point is, the way people use fanfic at least is more so
Yeah.
like a spin-off. It's a side story. It's a new story that happens to take place in that world. Usually it's irrelevant. Half the time it's irrelevant to the rest of the plot. It could be a story of freaking Sasuke and Sakura's dinner one time. You know, it's just it has its own beginning, middle, and end that is separate from the main
Yeah.
story. It just happens to exist diverse. A
Yeah,
rewrite,
also-
the point at least when you do a rewrite is to have the same story. It would be the same story of
No,
Naruto.
but what
you just make
Ood
some
said,
plot changes.
yeah, but Ood said when you inject your headcanon, that's when it becomes fanfic. But if you're rewriting the story, you are using headcanon.
Let me clarify something. I think you might agree with this. Fanfic doesn't change the main story. If it starts changing the story rather than being in addition to it, it's a rewrite.
I mean, the way I hear fanfic used, at least, is really just like a spinoff. It's a side. It's like Naruto Gaiden. It's not changing
yeah.
the Naruto manga. It's just an additional side
It's like
story.
a side. It's
That's
like
how
the
fanfic's
novels,
usually
right?
used.
Yeah, so I
It's
think
like the novels. Like it's a side story that doesn't change the actual material, right?
general-
So
That's how
that's how
fanfic's
I know
usually
it.
used.
That's why I'm saying, like, I don't think the headcanon thing is like the
a general
but,
rule of
you know,
thumb
that's
would be like for original fan fiction set in the verse, it would never contradict anything from the source material unless it's like an accidental mistake.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a rewrite is specifically.
Well, I wouldn't say
meant to do that.
never, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, should.
Okay, so that's the difference. All right, cool.
It's
Kaguya is
unavoidable.
the GOAT, man. Kaguya, she has to be included every time.
I do want to clarify, I do like her as a character, but I like all the Otsutsuki as a character. If I had to say Kinshiki is the only one that I
What?
don't really like,
Kinshiki is more of a
plot device than a
almost
character.
like a symbol than he is a character.
Exactly.
He just represents a father figure
Yeah.
more so than he is the character. He just is the character's dad.
If anything,
He's the GOAT.
Kamui, it would have been really, really interesting if they leaned into the father figure angle for the father figure theme of Boruto. It's considering like Momoshiki and Boruto have that whole dynamic. So then you get Momoshiki with Kinshiki and then Boruto with Naruto. Kinshiki fails to
Yeah,
grow,
I think
whereas
it-
Naruto adapts. And that could be why they win in the end. I like that
It'll
as a
be
rewrite.
overdone, bro. It's overdone. Because
I
they're doing
mean-
it with Sasuke, they're doing it with so many characters, bro. We didn't need another one.
I mean, can it
Oh,
be
it's a big
overdone
theme.
if
Yeah,
it's
it's a
the
big theme in Boruto. They
main
do
theme?
it's all over the place.
Yeah, I would say the main. Like that's
Everywhere.
saying
It's
that like
literally everywhere, bro.
that's like saying survival is overdone in The Walking Dead. Like that's the point of the show.
yeah.
nah,
like,
bro, nah.
the parent-child
Come on.
relationship
There's
is
a
one of the
difference.
biggest themes in Boruto overall. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's gotta be present a lot of places for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I really hate
It
how
takes-
much
it-
they changed the world in Naruto. Man, if Naruto just didn't change the world, it's so much more unique when it happened.
In what sense?
It's a irony. I don't know. Is that the right word? Anyways, moving on.
Sarcasm. Anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I was gonna say something about the Kawaki scene. So I think they definitely like try to reference the original scene in Shippuden, right? But I think that the context behind it is different. So that's where I kind of agree with Mello, because I think you guys were trying to say like because they're doing the reference to what happened, they had to like follow everything,
No, no, no.
or
No,
make it. You
no,
weren't
that's
saying
It
that, but
doesn't
I
even
think
need to be similar. It's comparing the
no.
concept of the scene than the scene itself. Because obviously the context, situation, characters, goals, dreams, dynamic, it's all different. It's
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
comparing.
Comparing
Like
the feel
it's
of the
different in
scene.
a sense that like it. There's a different narrative surrounding the entire like setting itself, right?
Yeah, literally
So
the
like
environment is
there's
different.
no need for them to. Yeah, there's no need for them to fight. So
Yeah.
that's why I feel like they shouldn't have referenced back to the scene.
Well, there's
That's
no
what I
need for
feel.
Naruto and Sasuke to
Because
fight either. Now, saying they shouldn't have reference back to it at all, yeah. If anything, it'd be interesting to see a version of
I
the scene
feel like
like that.
because since it doesn't like hold the same weight, it's not conveying the same message or emotion, right? So obviously people are gonna nitpick, they're gonna compare it and say oh, one scene is inferior to the other. I feel like you should be able to see this coming, right? And be like, is it worth it to like do it, But at the same time, like most people probably don't care about it, just us. So
Yeah.
they're probably thinking that, yeah, it's gonna be the one and two nerds, but yeah.
What it's comparing is the plot point, like the beat of the story, what the author,
Yeah.
the purpose of having the scene in the first place. They have the same purpose for existing.
Well, not
It does.
necessarily.
It does.
It,
But it's doing a similar thing for Kawaki as what it did for Naruto to lose and what it did for Sasuke to lose to Itachi in part one. It's doing something similar. But even then,
Vaguely, yeah.
like I said earlier, the point isn't to compare it because it needed to be the same. The point of the comparison is that the scene objectively has many similarities, but in my opinion, at
mm-hmm.
least, the Naruto example makes me feel more than the Boruto example. That's true
Yeah.
for a lot of stuff in Boruto. It's not just this one scene. It's generally a thing that I felt with Boruto in general that I don't like because I would rather like to say I want to relive Naruto. I don't want to relive the plot of Naruto. I want to relive the feel of Naruto. I want it to feel. I want to have the
It's a
same
dialogue
emotion
probably.
invoked. Like
It's a dialogue because if you look at it, like Naruto carried most of the emotion between the relationship we had with Sasuke. That Sasuke was the same as like Kawaki, but he wasn't as murderous. definitely, definitely not. He had the same personality, right? So it wasn't like talking and like carrying the weight of the conversation, especially in like Shippuden. But in part one, he was, especially in the final fight. Like Sasuke was actually like having a conversation and relating to Naruto. I think he cried at one point, and he remembered what happened, with the Uchiha and stuff, and why he had to like kill Naruto to gain power to take down Itachi and stuff. And then we saw what happened later on with him not killing Naruto. It could be because he felt like he wanted to be rebellious to Itachi, but I feel like he just used that to justify not killing Naruto because he didn't really want to, even though he tried to kill him multiple times, including like ramming his hand, through his chest. So I guess his perspective changed over the course of the fight due to Naruto's words, I suppose.
Yeah. So
So
this
I don't know if something similar happened with Kawaki though, because he seems a bit more, as I said, murderous and not very intelligent. I will say.
I mean, so going in terms of the characters' personalities, this does play a role. I don't think it's like there's no way around what I'm about to say. This is going to be more of a part
oh
one critique,
boy.
like I love to do, but I'm gonna use this example. So if you look at the way Naruto responds to what Sasuke is doing in the Sasuke retrieval arc, there's a reason why we feel emotion. Naruto shows a lot of emotion every step of the way, between his shock that Sasuke left, between when he's seeing Sakura crying and Naruto has to give his promise of a lifetime, which is basically to say, like, I'm gonna bring back Sasuke, basically give up my chance of being with you, Sakura, because I love you that much, Sakura. Then there's when Naruto actually confronts Sasuke at the very, or actually no, when Sasuke comes out of the coffin. You just look at Naruto's emotion, like he's tricking himself into thinking Sasuke's just gonna come back. He's just beyond disappointed to see Sasuke just ignore him and run away. But then he meets up with Sasuke, and he starts talking about what all the friends did for him. Sasuke just blows him off. He's angry, and then Sasuke eventually actually tries to kill him. You feel the weight on Naruto, like the depression, how broken he is at the fact that Sasuke actually just tried to kill him. Naruto looks devastated, and you can feel that. And then you get onto his rage with Kurama and so on. And if you compare it with Boruto in a similar aspects, Kawaki tries to kill him. It's just, what the heck you doing, bro? You going crazy? He doesn't feel like Naruto did. You don't feel like it is weighing on him, like it's breaking him. And then afterwards, it's just like, oh man, it's my fault. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna beat up Kawaki. Boruto doesn't give you any emotion in that sense. Now, they could have done something, not in terms of Kawaki, but in terms of Momoshiki. They didn't do that either, which is part of the problem. So you don't get any emotion from this relationship. And then Boruto post time skip, unlike Naruto, again, the emotion to seeing Sasuke and all this stuff is just different. Boruto's just fucking serious. He's way stronger, and he's just like, bro, you ain't even been training. You suck. I'm gonna go ditch you and go fight Jura. And it's like, how are you gonna get emotion out of that? So obviously, that's the characterization they're going for. You're gonna have to change where the emotion comes from. It's not gonna come from Boruto's despair over the fact that Kawaki's trying to kill him, because that's just not how they wrote these characters. So you gotta put it somewhere else. But
that's why I said it should be Kawaki. That's why I said earlier, like Kawaki should be the one carrying the emotional weight here, because you have to remember that Boruto feels guilty, right? Yeah. He feels like he should die, right? Because the Momoshiki situation is there. So like Boruto understands why Kawaki wants to kill him. So you're not gonna get the emotion from Boruto. You should get it from Kawaki, because Kawaki is the one having to do the deed, right? He has to kill his brother and stuff.
Yeah, one of the last things he tells Hinata is only a crazy person could kill their brother. And so he feels something about this.
Exactly. And so I believe Mello didn't like this idea because it was done in chapter 79, which is the whole, when Kawaki, basically the scene when Kawaki has the panel of Boruto, then Borushiki. Whenever Kawaki looks at Boruto, he sees Momoshiki. That's the problem. And you can't separate the two. And I think they should,
because he's a moron,
remind us of it. Kawaki, whether they say it verbally or they show panels like that to indicate it, that's how you're going to get the emotion from Kawaki. That's how you're going to show where it's just like he can't see anything but Momoshiki. So I think instead of, this is a small change, but Kawaki says some line about like, oh, you're the enemy of Konoha now. When he says it, it definitely seems like he's referencing omnipotence, the fact that everyone hates you because of omnipotence. It doesn't seem like he's referencing Momoshiki.
But Kamui, that can't make sense.
He's not referring to Momoshiki. Like,
exactly.
I think people miss that. Yeah. No, because like even if you go to like, I think it was chapter 2 when he's speaking to Sarada, he's like saying, yo, he needs to die because, not because, of whatever, but due to the mere fact that he's genetically an Otsutsuki. Like he wants to get rid of the race itself. And it's not even like, even if he gets rid of Momoshiki, he wants Boruto himself gone because he is an Otsutsuki. Like he says this. Yeah. He wants to get rid of every single one of them by virtue of them being Otsutsuki. So I feel like we've devolved from, I need to kill this guy because, Momoshiki may become a threat, to, I need this guy gone because he's a part of the race that I need to exterminate. Like Boruto is 100% Otsutsuki. Kawaki feels like he's genetically disposed to evil at this point. That's where Kawaki's at, right? And it makes sense. Like if you go back to like any racist stereotype or belief in the past from people that wanted to kill a certain group of people, it always starts from somewhere to like something that is only unique to one person, then they attribute it to the entire race, and it devolves from there, right? So, and Kawaki's taking a very, very similar path to getting rid of every Otsutsuki regardless of like their intent, so I don't feel like he's talking about like Momoshiki when he says, oh, Boruto needs to die. I think he believes Boruto needs to die,
So
that's what
on one hand, just looking at Two Blue Vortex, I agree. What I will say though, and you can just tell me what you think about this, in chapter 78, Boruto's like, why are you doing this? And Kawaki's answer is basically, because you're Sasuke. Why else? So that would fit in line with what he says in Two Blue Vortex. Like, he's an Otsutsuki. That's why he should die. Nothing more, nothing less. However, that's chapter 78. In chapter 79, which is post chapter 78, Kawaki clearly indicates to Ada that Momoshiki is the problem, not Boruto's gen. It's the fact that Momoshiki is Boruto. It's not that Boruto is Otsutsuki, it's that Momoshiki is Boruto. That's the impression he gives us. And because that's post chapter 78, that kind of indicates that, well, that's the real reason. It has devolved into the other reason because
Plus,
chronologically,
really quickly, Kamui, off of that, it's like Sasuke in his first fight with Naruto at the Valley of the End. At first, he's like, I'm just gonna kill you because you're a loser. But then he starts opening up once he starts losing, once he starts not getting his way, once his emotions become more raw and vulnerable, and he tells Naruto, how could you ever understand what it's like to lose all that, etc., etc. That's when he really becomes real. He drops his guard, takes off his mask, and reveals how he's truly feeling. The same applies with Kawaki. At the beginning of the fight with Boruto, he's just telling him whatever. It's like surface level, shallow, because he's not backed into a corner yet. But then next chapter, you see he's backed into a corner. He's explaining to Ada all his real, genuine frustrations. Those are his raw, true emotions. That's how he's truly feeling. Even if it's not what he said, that's what he meant. But he couldn't say it then because he wasn't vulnerable at that moment. And that applies to like real life psychology. People will say they're fine, or they'll give whatever vague answer when deep down, they could easily at any moment reveal the true reason they're suffering or hurt or in pain or whatever. But they're not going to do that. It's almost like an embarrassing thing. They just, for whatever reason, just the psychology, I don't know the exact reason why, but they just don't do it unless they feel like they're pushed to or they need to. With Kawaki in particular, I think this is really interesting because going back to chapter 79 as well, his frustrations, you gotta ignore omnipotence, drop omnipotence from what Kawaki's frustrations are, and also the Borushiki thing. He's devastated because he's saying, why did it have to be him? Why Boruto? Because that's his brother, man. That's the one he loves. The fact that it's not just Momoshiki, the fact that Boruto is Otsutsuki, that's a threat. There's no other way in his mind for him to go about it. He's already risked enough. Naruto's been in enough risk at this point. The fact that Boruto, of all people, had to not just have Momoshiki, but be Otsutsuki, he can't just kill Momoshiki like he would want to. It kills him, but he has to kill Boruto, his brother, and he knows it, and he knows how painful it is, but he has to do it anyways, because in his mind, there's no other way, no other option, because he's tried it, and it's been risky, and Naruto's almost died, like the Code Arc, like versus Ishiki. He got lucky to get out of that. Amado tells him, Naruto in his current state couldn't even take on someone like Code. He got lucky against Delta, I think Amado says anyways. The point being, he's putting all these things in Kawaki's mind that it's now or never, do or die. Save Naruto, or he's just gonna die, probably at Boruto's hand, or at any other Otsutsuki's hand. That's why he's after the Otsutsuki, not just because it's any threat to Naruto. I don't think Kawaki necessarily cares if it's a threat that Naruto can handle by himself. He's not that controlling. I think he only cares because there's threats out there that are greater than Naruto. And those same threats were greater than himself, which is why he's trying to take the burden onto himself to become stronger, to take care of those threats now, before he can reveal Naruto later.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to look at the start, right? Because him saying, like Momoshiki, him saying that he wished it wasn't Boruto doesn't negate what he feels he needs to accomplish, which is exterminating Boruto, who is now 100% Otsutsuki.
It's
like,
want versus need.
A matter of what came first and what led to this point.
Yeah,
you know?
Really
so
doesn't want to do it, but he needs to do it.
Yeah, he's wishing that, Boruto didn't get the karma seal. He's wishing that, he didn't turn into an Otsutsuki, a being he needs to exterminate. That's what he's wishing. He's wishing that he literally said, he wished it was a nobody. Like, he could just, get rid of them and nobody would care.
Yeah,
so it's like,
when he says, why does it have to be him? It's because he has to kill all Otsutsuki, and Boruto's Otsutsuki, and he doesn't want to have to kill Boruto. He wants to kill Otsutsuki, but not specifically Boruto. But because Boruto's Otsutsuki, it's dragging him apart. It's pulling him apart. He's being pulled in two different directions with this one versus need. But we just don't really get to see that a lot.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because in part two, it just seems like that he doesn't care anymore, which shouldn't be the case.